Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Want to make sure this is working. Yeah, it looks like it is. Hello? Anybody hear me? Howdy, Lynn. How are you doing? You heard me cough. Yeah, I'm always coughing. It's an allergy thing. Hello from Alabama, Connecticut, and Susanville, California. Oklahoma City. Good, great. Thank you for joining us. Or me, I guess. Oh, it's been hotter and hot here in Utah. I think we've had, we were breaking records well over 100 degrees in June, which is crazy. I think our normal in June is like in the 70s or 80s, something like that. And we're in the hundreds. So it's pretty hot here. Brigham City, yeah, you're getting the heat too. So welcome. I was going to look here and see how hot we got today. Well, we're cooling down a little bit. That's good. Looks like we're only going to be in the low 90s during the week. That'd be nice. We've been having well over 100, like I said. Been hot. All right. We'll give it a little bit for people to come on. Well, Toowoomba, Queensland. Wow. Let's see. I don't know what's the time zone. Is it like night? Well, it's got to be morning or something for you over there, right? And in Wyoming, I think, aren't you guys getting the rain? All the rain, Wyoming? I don't know. It seems like all the weather, the good weather is, the nice weather is all up north of us right lately. Spring, Texas. I'm from Texas, but I don't remember a Spring, Texas. That doesn't mean it's not there. I got to go look and see where that is. Let's see, Spring, Texas. Oh, okay. Down by Houston, just outside of Houston. Yeah. 11:30 a.m. Okay, great. In Toowoomba. Yeah, I had an opportunity when I was in high school to go to Corpus Christi. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, and I remember taking a bus ride. It was like 20 hours to get down to Corpus Christi. Hopefully my dog in the background isn't making you too much noise there. Deja, what are you barking at, girl? Huh? What you barking at? All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started on a few things here. We have some questions that were asked. This one, and I still think we're just doing a little bit overlap from before, or a couple of times before. Daisy, hush, hush. Shh. This is Linda. She says, in my contributions, private people, I would like to be able to sort by year of birth. That way I can look once in a while and check for death records. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think I've passed it on to my team already, but I will take that again. Sort private, because it just kind of comes up random. It's not really random. It's sort of in the way that things were entered in. Sort private by birth date as a filter. Yeah, I think that's a good request. Next one on the list here is from Irene. She says, I know my ancestor immigrated because he was born in England and died in New York. When I put immigration into other information, it asks for date and place and description. What is an example of what I should write in the description? You probably don't have an immigration record. Otherwise, you would put that information in there for the date of immigration. So the date you'd like is the date they immigrated into the United States. If you don't have that, I would probably calculate a year kind of thing. There may be some records around a census or something that talks about when this ancestor was in New York, and you could just say things like before that year or about that year. And then the place would be New York. And then description is, that this you believe that this ancestor immigrated from England into New York, and maybe you can refer to some source that you've attached to the person that shows that they died in New York. So that's probably something that I would probably put in. What you're trying to do is inform people that he immigrated, or he or she immigrated, and where they were from, and where they ended up immigrating to. What are the reasons that merges can only be completed in a specific order and cannot be switched? I am thinking about that one. We used to have several things that blocked order. And for right now, I cannot think of something for that. We used to block that you couldn't put two people together that had a membership record, but we've removed that restriction. My thinking here now is that we are trying. We put in some stuff inside a family tree to try to have the person in the tree that has been in the longest to remain as the PID for that person. So, think about it. If you have somebody who's been in the tree for years, lots of ancestors have put sources and texts and data, and things have been happening. The change log's real big, things like that. And then someone inadvertently adds a duplicate of that person, and it has really no change log at all because it's just barely put in. And then they enter enough data, and it starts saying, "Hey, these two are duplicates." We would like to have the one that's been around the longest to stay, because it has this long, rich history of changes, sources added, or disagreements in the system. And so we did put some code in there that would prevent you from choosing the other direction as the person to remain in the tree. It hasn't been a lot that have run into that, because we've kind of made the restriction a little broad, so or kind of little narrow. And I have been thinking about talking with the teams about maybe we need to tighten that up a little bit And it's mainly because we want to maintain the history of that person across the systems, right? So they may have been entered in way back in 2007 or 8 in the prior system. And then as they came over to Family Tree, we'd like that change log and all that stuff to remain and be there as a rich history of that particular person in its evolving through Family Tree. So that's what I'm guessing. Nancy, if you would send me, or you can just tell me the PIDs here, if you have the 2 PIDs by chance, then I can go look at that and take a deeper look and see if I'm remembering correctly, or if that's the particular case that we're in. How can we change? How can we edit or delete things we write in the change log? You can't. The change log is not changeable. I'm assuming that you feel like you made a mistake when you wrote it down. That's fine, Nancy. Just send me an email, ron@familysource.org, whenever you can. Or if you don't, that's okay too. People have asked before about getting stuff out of the change log because, sometimes you make a mistake or you thought it was a different person, or you entered something in that you don't want to have there in the change log. But we need to keep the change logs because that's how things evolved, and somebody may need to restore something from the change log. So we don't allow a user to edit or delete, because then you'd be changing history of what happened to the person. So just recommend being a little bit more deliberate when you're changing a person, and recognizing that that's going to be recorded in the change log and it'll stay in the change log. Because it's a record of what's happened to that particular person. Let's see, is there a moratorium on ordinances completed date still in place? Yeah, right now, because there's not a lot of temples there's no temples in phase 4. We're not even going to consider turning off excuse me, I should say it another way. We're not even considering turning on the expiration of reservations yet. We're not even going to start thinking about it until most, if not all, temples. We haven't figured out a number yet, but certainly there has to be significant number of temples in phase 4, which is unrestricted, which means they can do any of the ordinances. There's no issues or problems. So we will probably be, when this happens, when we make the decision, we'll probably put out a blog and some announcements, or some maybe even emails. Who knows what we'll end up doing? But we'll probably let people know that that's happening. We'll have to do it a bit in advance, probably several weeks before we turn on the expirations again. So it's not, I don't see it happening anytime soon, unless something really accelerates in making sure people are doing well in the pandemic, and it's well on its way out. Then so be prepared. It's not going to happen without knowing, because we're going to try to let people know. Well, hello from Portugal. This is amazing. Thank you for joining us in Portugal. Glad you speak English. I used to speak Spanish, although Portuguese is not quite like Spanish. I've ran into somebody was down the block working on a house, and I walked by, and they were talking about my dog and how pretty the dog was, and they were referring to the dog as a male, and I happened to blurt out that she was a female in Spanish, and we started a little conversation. And I wish I could remember all my Spanish. I mean, I love Spanish. I grew up with not in my home with Spanish, but I grew up in El Paso, and so I heard a lot of Spanish and understood a lot of the Spanish, and ended up going on a mission to Guatemala. So, and my first 3 companions were native from El Salvador, and so I was immersed in Spanish and was actually thinking and dreaming in Spanish. But since I've been home, I just haven't had a chance to use it as much as I needed to keep it fresh. So I tried a little of that. I can't remember what it's called now. Duolingo to try to get some of it back, but it just wasn't sticking. I can't spend enough time working on it, but someday I'm going to try to get all that back. Okay, this is from Nathan. Nathan says, it's a little bit longer question. It says, thank you for rolling out the Ordinances Completed tab. Being able to see the person's identifying data at the time of ordinance is critical for verifying the ordinances work shown in the PID's Ordinance tab. This verification is necessary because of what I will call ordinance hijacking, which is just basically, it's not really a hijacking. It's just when two people are merged and the ordinances were done at different times. And if it's the same person, then it's the correct thing to do, because then the earliest ordinance is the proper one that should be showing. Says when things get merged together, the A's identity during the merge or thereafter. When this happens, Family Search Family Tree falsely shows completed ordinance for a person. A. Well, that's because the merge that brought them together shows that ordinance of the person who did the earliest. And he says, unless someone detects that it's a bad merge, unfortunately, there are commonly no direct indicators that would make a user suspect ordinance hijacking has occurred. For the victim PID, the data in Ordinance Completed tab can be compared with the data in the PID's Ordinance tab to easily identify cases of ordinance hijacking. Thus, the Ordinance Completed tab provides historical data that would be useful to all users. It's currently restricted to the most recent 2 years and to ordinances completed by the user. Would it be possible to expand access to this data beyond the immediate user and beyond the 2-year window? Not sure what you mean, Nathan, by beyond data beyond the immediate user, because a completed list is your completed list, not somebody else's completed list, and we don't share that amongst others. Beyond the 2-year window, that's problematic. The reason we chose, there's a couple of reasons why we chose a limit. One is would be a significant strain on the system if we showed all of the ordinances that you may have submitted to the temple or completed yourself. And that would be a significant burden on the temple. As you know, for people that have large reservation lists, you can run into some troubles with the software, and it's simply because of the abundance of data that we're trying to deal with that becomes messy and difficult to display through a browser, which typically doesn't like to show a lot of data. So we chose 2 years as a reasonable window. We currently don't have any intention of making that go larger. Plus, I didn't want to show everything that everybody has done because I didn't want one person talking to another person and they start saying things like, well, I just finished my 100,000th ordinance or something like that. Or I just finished sharing my 50,000th ordinance to the temple, and then make others feel inferior or anything like that. Because everybody can work at their own pace. Everybody can do it in a certain order. And I didn't want to have, I didn't want to provide opportunities where there could be that kind of conversations. I just wanted people to it's not about the numbers, it's about doing the work. So Nathan, if you hear this later, or then you can certainly send me an email if you want to suggest how much longer than the 2-year window. It's certainly not going to be all that a person has ever done. So we chose 2 years. We felt like that was a reasonable amount of time, length of time where people would have a pretty good range of ordinances. And when okay, Julie. I'm wondering why some memories still have the red exclamation mark even after the picture has been tagged. I got to go look at some of those. Let's see. Anybody out there remember anything on that? The red, let me see here. Let's see if I can find one in mine. Memories. Sometimes you have to edit the tag that is already there and resize it so it does not cover the whole picture. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Did they do that? Did they make that change? Let me go look. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I guess pictures that I have that don't have that is they're not tagged at all. Okay, so thank you, Nancy. Good suggestion. Sometimes you have to edit the tag that's already there and resize it so it does not cover the whole picture. Try that and see if that works. I will go and mess with this picture I have that I haven't done that with, that I haven't tagged anybody on it, and see if that's what happens. Alrighty. The tag covers it. Yeah, when you're just tagging one person or you click the first tag, it tends to be large. I can pass that on to the team. Well, they know about that. They know to sort of help reduce that. So I'm working on that. Alrighty. Next one is, it's been several years since I've heard about plans for sharing of information of family search for living persons among consenting extended family members. I hope this is still among family search development priorities. Is this the case, and is there a time frame for that capability? Thank you. This is from Dan. The answer is yes, we are planning to do that still. It's a large project, and that large project is going to be broken up into several phases. So one of the first phases we're working on is creating groups. And once we get that working reasonably well, then the next part will be a shared family reservation list so that you can have a shared family reservation. And those that you invite to the group and that come, if they're members of the church, they would be able to see ordinances in the shared family reservation list, where anybody who's part of that group and their members can share ordinances to that group. And then any member in that group can then take one of the ordinances and go to the temple. We feel like this is a good way for people to reduce the need to print multiple cards, reduce the need to mail them to people and have them mail it back, and just simply send the ordinance to that shared reservation list and let the people who want to take it print the cards they're interested in doing. And then when those cards are completed, then it would show up in both the person's completed list who printed the card, as well as the completed list of the person who shared it with the group. Okay, so I wanted both parties to know when that ordinance is done. Okay, David Cook, will the new share with family list have different expiration time frames? Will these lists interact with the share to temple lists also? What we're doing with the shared family group reservation list is you can share it to the group, and but the people in the group can't turn around and share it to the temple. Okay, so you can't share it with both the group and to the temple. So you have to share it to the group if you want to share it to the group, and the expiration time frame will be based on your reservation list. So let's say you have a 2-year reservation, you share it to the family group, then that reservation is valid for 2 years. If somebody in the group then takes it from the shared family group list and says they're going to take care of it, they'll have 90 days to get it done. Otherwise, it'll go back on the shared family list. But the expiration is still that original 2-year time frame on the original reservers list. And if it so happens that it doesn't get done in 2 years, then it'll get shared to the temple. automatically, just like any expiration of the reservations. And then you could people could go get it from the Ordinances ready or something like that. Okay, I hope that explained that well. Okay, David, let me know if you have any more questions. June, thank you. I hope the family is well. The family is doing pretty well. Cherie is improving all the time. She's had some struggles with some hip pains. We've been thinking that it was related to her surgery, which caused her femoral neuropathy, which is just basically pain in your legs, going down your legs. And we went to some other doctors, and they were more specialists in this area, and they've looked at it and determined that it's actually some arthritis in her hip. And so she's starting, I think she's actually starting tomorrow to go to some physical therapy. And they're telling us that with some physical therapy, then she's most likely going to be just fine. It's going to, just like any physical therapy, it'll hurt for a while, but it'll be able to be overcome, and then she won't have that pain. So thank you for asking. I appreciate it. The family is doing well. Donna, please, can we edit our photos in the memories section? I want to put them in order according to the year the photo was taken. All right, so the memories team is currently working on updating memories. We're writing a new version of memories. It's going to have some great features that you're going to like. And one of those, so they've been working on that, and that's going to continue. We're not going to have them stop that so we can do this other. You can, it doesn't feel as comfortable, but you can create an album, and put your memories or whatever memories of that particular person into the album, and you can sort them in the album. You can say this one first, this one. You can drag and drop them around so that they're in the proper order from youngest to oldest, or whichever order you particularly care. I've encouraged them to make sure that they allow a person to sort it by the date that they put in. You put a date when the picture's taken or whatever. And so if you just push one button and sorts them all by a date, that would just do the same thing. And I imagine you're also interested in doing that on the person page. So I'm encouraging them to have that kind of sorting happening on both in the albums and on the person pages. But that they're going to have to work a little bit more on their memories that they're enhancing. So that'll still take a while for it to come in. All righty, let me jump over here back, and then I'll come back for the next question. Next one, this is from Irene. I know the surname Emerson, but I don't know the first name. If I just put Emerson, it looks like, oh yeah, we answered this one once before. It looks like the first name is Emerson rather than being the surname. Should I put Mr. Emerson? Yes, the answer is yes. Put a Mr. in the title and put Emerson in as the last name. Is there a standard format for put in dates given by quarter, such as Q2, which is common in English records? Yeah, there is a standard. We don't say Q2, but you can put a range in any date. So you could put in January 1 to, 31, January 1 to like March 31st of that year. You could say January 1, 2020 to March 31st, 2020. And that will represent that period of a quarter. So you can do that. You can put ranges in. They can be, if you just put a year in, then that's interpreted as a year's worth, as any time that year. Or you can put ranges in, from January to October or something, that they were someplace for your standard dates. And, for like births and things like that, people put in, about, which means where it's a calculated kind of thing. Or they may have a little range in there. Usually birth is like, when you're calculating it, it's easy to put in a about when you know the person was 12 years old at some future census time. Okay, Thomas J. Kemp, have you noticed that ordinances are being completed for names shared within days of sharing? Weren't we going to have the system pull from the oldest shared names first? And the answer is depends. So let me explain that, Thomas. If a user, okay, so you share with the temple and it goes in order in the temple based on the date it was shared. So the one that was shared last is the one that's on the bottom of the list. The one that was shared the first is at the top of the list, okay? And then we're talking about across the whole church. So that's the order of the temple shared list, okay? But if a user who is looking for an ordinance to take to the temple and they use ordinances ready, the way ordinances ready is made is we want the user who is clicking ordinances ready to have, if it is any way possible, we want to give them the closest relative that needs that ordinance. So, for instance, let's say you entered a family in, great-great-grandfather or something like that, and a grandchild of that person or great-great-grandchild of that person clicks ordinances ready and wants baptisms. What we do is we go up the tree, just like one generation at a time, and then down a little bit to find the closest relative that needs that ordinance. And our goal is to try to give them a name that is somebody they may have heard about or may actually have known. And when it's somebody they know or somebody they heard about from their mother or their dad or their grandfather, they can go ask them about this person. I got this name. Then it's just amazing to them. Their hearts are overjoyed because it's someone close to them or someone they knew. So in those cases, because we're trying to give them something that they may have happened to know or heard about, that could cause that those ordinances get picked up quickly. If we don't find anything going up and down their tree, then we're going to change the algorithm so it looks in shared family groups that they're a member of, because that's another opportunity to get a family name. And if that doesn't find the ordinance they want, then we're going to use the ones you shared to the temple, and then we will next look at what is in the shared temple list that you're related to a person. We'll go back 10 generations or so and down 8 or 9 or so, and if we find any of those PIDs has the ordinance shared with the temple, then we'll pull that out and give that to the person, because we're trying to give them their family first. And then if there isn't any that we can find, then we just give them the oldest name on the list. Okay. Now, what you need to also understand is that's independent of when the temple starts collecting names to hand out to people in the temple. When the temple needs names, they will pull from the oldest one always. They're not looking for ones that are for a particular person. So they will always pull the oldest ones that have been in the system, and those will be the first ones to be pulled to hand out to those who need a slip. Future plans, I'll think about that. Nancy, has the level for duplicates and sources been raised to the number 5 level? Yes, it has. We did that it's probably been about a month ago, a little over a month. And the reason why we did it is there were lots of complaints by people where duplicates and hints were not really about those people, and some are not careful with examining the record or examining the duplicate and making sure that it's really the same person in the same family. And we wanted to reduce those problems that people have to go back in and unmerge because they're frustrated and somebody changed something and they shouldn't have. So we did go to 5 level, which is about 98 to 99% accurate in matching. And then we are working on how we would like to allow some people to have the ability to choose lesser matches, like in the 95s, 96s, or something like that. But we haven't quite figured out how to do that. Well, we know how to do it, but we don't know how to offer it to the right people. So just wanted you to understand that. So currently, yes, all the hints and all of the possible duplicates are 5-star levels, which is the most accurate kind. Thank you for asking, Nancy. Okay, I'm going to go over here to the other side. So this is from Warren, says the easy invitations report in Helper Resources is a great report to help Ward Temple Family History Consultant approach Ward members about doing family history. Its sort order, however, is really bad. Yes, it is. I've had people complain that to me. What will make this report better is to sort it in family order, such as last name, husband, wife, birth order, children, even just sorting the last name. First name order would be great. Improvement if you can't get the order from the church's database. Well, we don't get the order from the church's database because it's in family tree. You're talking about, you're talking about members of your ward. Okay, let me mark that down here. Let's see. This is easy invitations. Sorted by family name, by last name, and grouped by family. That's really what you want, I think. All right. Okay, let me see and mark that and go over here. This next one. Colleen, in the app, when I click messages, I see across the top of the screen, conversations, discoveries, tree, and temple. My husband's app only has conversations and discoveries. Not exactly sure why you wouldn't do it. Are both your apps the same most recent version? Have they been updated? Let me see what I see. I think I see all of those. I'm just going to go click that real fast and see. You go into messages. Yeah, I have conversations, discovery tree, and temple. Yeah, temple, it may be because he didn't have any. There's been some changes. I just recently found out the last week or so. I don't do the messaging system. So it appears from what I'm seeing in my mobile app that so what's happened if you go to familysearch.org and you look at the 2 new icons. One looks like a box with like a conversation coming out of a cartoon, and another one is a let me exit that thing. The other one is a bell, and the little text message with a little like a conversation thing is messages, and the bell is notifications. And my understanding is that notifications will be shown in the system. Let's see, what was the question he was asking? Oh, no. We went, when I click messages, I come across the thing. Yeah, I'll have to check with my mobile guy to see why. I suspect that temple stuff, since we have a completed list, this temple stuff is kind of moved over. Because if I go to show all messages, when I show all messages now in family search, I don't see the distinction between temple and so I'm going to click to see what's different here. It says has a new look, autofill contact name. You have the ability to delete, mute, which means you want to stop receiving messages from somebody else, report abuse, and send a message. And anything else? That's all they put in. So my understanding is that there would be messages inside of there potentially from Temple or from other things. I was going to look at mine, see if I have mostly just people contacting me about our relationship. But the bell is separate and it's only notifications. So I don't know if that answers your question. Let me go read your question again. Yeah, I don't understand why I think that they're there, Colleen, because you have those messages still in your set of messages. And I bet you if you deleted those messages, that then that temple thing would disappear, my guess, but not positive. I will check that. All right, mobile. Some only see conversations and discoveries. Others also tree and temple. So it would be interesting to know if your husband is watching somebody in the tree, because that's where I think the tree part would come into play, and whether or not your husband also has completed some temple, reserved and completed some temple ordinances. That's what I would love to know if that makes a change. But I will talk to my product manager who does the mobile apps. Okay, you have another. Let me go back over here. This is from Jared. When someone adds a source to someone's family search record, the program asks them to state the reason they are attaching the source. How can I see what those reasons the source was attached? I can't see them to find the information when I view the source. Yeah, and it's it's inside the source. So when somebody had asked me this or some other time too, I can't seem to find that information. I can't see the information when I view the source. I can see everything else, but not that. In the vital and other information sections, I can see the reason someone gave for adding the information. If I hit edit on the field, but that doesn't work on sources. And more than that, it doesn't when I hit view. What am I doing wrong? Okay, let me tell you where it is. And maybe we need to think about rejiggering. I don't know. But sources is a different system, and that system holds all data about the source. So when you see a source on a person page, so I'm going to describe it for you. So let me get to a person here, and I will talk through what I'm trying to describe. Waiting for my family members to get up. Here you go. Okay, I'm going to go to my great-grandfather, and I'm going to look at sources. Sure enough, when I see the source, I see the title, the date, that it's a family search source. I click view source, and I see the actual record, because that's the intent. And you also see similar historical records that might be valuable for you to look at to see if they are about the same person and attach them. But you don't see the reason why people attach the source. You need to do that. You can do that by, hold on a second here. Hold on, click right. I'm refreshing my page here. Yeah, if you go to sources and you click in the source screen, detail view, turn that on in the sources tab of a person page. Yeah, I think it'll sticky. I think it's sticky, so it'll stay on for everybody else you see. When you do that, so let me go to another person and see if it stays sticky. I'll go to his dad. And then when you have detail view on sources, oh, I got to talk to him about it not being sticky, or maybe it was. I was just busy. If you have detail view in sources turned on, then you will see the reason the source is attached. Okay. So click the detail view inside of the sources tab, and you'll be able to see that. Okay, so that was that question. Okay, now we'll come back over here to the live folks. Oh, Sonia, you said you had a question. Let me go back and see if I missed the question. I say hello from Portugal. My pleasure. I've made a question, but it seems you couldn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see it there, Sonia. Could you type your question in, please? And we can answer it. Yeah, I don't think there's a way for me to filter to see your question because I don't see any from you, Sonia. Yeah, so please type it in for us, Sonia. I'd love to answer your question if I can. Okay, David Cook. The Q1, Q2 seems to come up a lot. Could the autofill logic for the date field of the family tree system be updated such that if Q1 is entered, it would recommend autofill? Well, I don't know if they're. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to spend energy for that shortcut there, David. But I'll pass it on to that team who does that. So really what you'd be doing is you would be putting Q1 1776 in the field, and you want the standard to actually be January 1 through March 31st of 1776 is what you're really asking for. All right, Kathleen, you're asking, how do you make sure the Family Tree app is up to date? Usually, if you're using, and I don't know how Android works because I don't have an Android phone, I have an iOS phone. But I think you need to, there's two things I notice on iOS. One is you can set it to auto update any apps that come out with a new version. So there's probably a similar setting in Android. If you don't have that, then there's usually a place on your phone where you can go where the App Store is, and you can look at if there's any of your apps you have installed that have an update. And then you can select each update you want to have applied to your phone. So that's usually how it works. So that's what I would think you need to do. So you can also check. There is a, hello Warren, there's a check. You can go into Family Tree and just to make sure you have the same version, because you're talking between you and your spouse. I think you can go into More, Come on, more. Oh, there they are, more. And you can go to, I think it's settings. Let me see, where is a version? I know there's some place that oh, it's at the bottom of the screen. So you go to more, scroll all the way to the bottom, and underneath the family search logo, it'll give you the version number of the app. So my one is 4.1.0. So you could go down there and see the version number of it, and then you can check that with your husband to see if you both have the same version. Thank you, Colleen. You got there before just about the same time I got there. Sonia, someone in Brazil assumed one of my ancestors' family search belonged to her family. One of your ancestors belonged to her family and changed the information I had. I could recover what I lost thanks to PAF. What can I do to avoid not happening again? Well, the first thing you need to do, Sonia, is make sure you communicate with that person and help them understand that it is not what they did was not this about the same ancestor. And you can help them understand how to create a new ancestor. I'm assuming they chose that ancestor. It would be interesting to understand how they chose that ancestor to change the name, because they may have just similar family names in their thing. So what I find that is the best to do is to work with that person a little bit. Obviously, that gets tough if the person is not willing to learn or to communicate well. But what I encourage you to do is contact that person, help them understand that the changes they made were not appropriate for that person, because you know the information you have is correct, and you hopefully have some sources on that person that identify that information as being correct. And then what I have found is most people that are working in the tree, they're a relative, because if they have a tree, unless they're just searching for a person just going to family tree search and entering a name, and then that happened to be the name that came up, then that's an issue. But most people, they start with themselves and they build up and add their family along the way. And what happens often is along the way, they're adding new people, and we find a fairly decent match between the person they are typing in to add and the person that's already in the tree. And so you need to help them understand a little bit about that, and help them understand, hey, just go create your own version of the ancestor, because it's not the same as this ancestor. And then if the names are close, then I always recommend to put a not a match between the two. So providing some education to the person who did it to help them understand, so that they are learning some more things. And they often become an advocate, if they're a relative of yours, to help you keep the tree clean, and encourage others to make changes that aren't somewhere else that aren't about that same family line. And it just makes good relationships, and helps them understand and do things better themselves. So, but if they happen to be if it was a merge, then the thing you need to do there, if they're close enough but they're not the same family, what you do there is, of course, you probably already know, you just make sure it's not a match between you. You separate the two, unmerge the person out of it, and then mark them as not the same person. And then that merge hint will not be offered any longer. So those are the things that usually work the best that I've found. Kathleen, could you offer lower level duplicates and hints in the possible duplicates option, or in the find similar people options? That's some of the places that we are thinking. Well, I'm not going to put it. Probably not going to put it in the possible, in the possible duplicates down below. That's a possibility. Find similar people is a good option as well. we find that people that are hurrying and trying to resolve hence don't go look in those areas, which is good because those are often less. They're certainly not 5-star level similar people. I think we got time for one more. I'll do one that's here in the spreadsheet. In England, on this England, 1770, this is Irene, christening record. What is the difference between event place and original place? She was christened at the event place, but they kept the christening record at the event place. Here's an example. Event place, Oldham, Lancaster, England. Event place, original was St. Mary, Oldham, Lancashire, England. And the difference there is one is what was written in by the individual, and the event place that would have been put in there was probably a standardized date, a standardized place from there. And that's probably, and so that makes it easier to find when people enter in that St. Mary, Oldham, Lancaster, England. It would probably bring up Oldham, Lancaster, England to find the particular thing, because we try to find standardized names, and we try to have everybody use the same standardized names, so that places and dates, so that we can make sure we're talking about the right people in the right places. And traditionally, the records don't necessarily go that many divisions. They don't go 4. It's usually 3. Occasionally in search, there'll be some 4s, but that's partly to make sure that we don't make it so restrictive that you can't find the records even though it's really your ancestor. So we have to do this balance where we have most of the place, but maybe it's not the complete place, because there could be some errors in the what's entered in. Okay, let's see. Kathy Nava, when I log in and check the keep me logged in for 2 weeks, why does it log me out before the 2 weeks? That question, that's not something that I do, and I've been hollering at the identity people for a long time about this one, and they keep telling me that it does do 2 weeks, but everybody I know, just gets frustrated by it. So yeah, Warren's just saying, hey, just uncheck it and just log in every time you go in. And there is a cookie in there, Nancy, that does check and tries to hold a period of time. But there's an algorithm, and I have forgotten it. There is an algorithm there that determines when that cookie. Now, if you're killing cookies or you're cleaning your cookies periodically, then bets are off, right? Because that cookie's going to be removed, and it'll be like you're starting over again anyway. So, yeah. So if you're clearing cookies, then that will certainly cause this to happen. But I've had other people tell me that they don't clear their cookies and stuff, but yet it still resets it. That's true. If you change your password, then that all changes too. So, all righty. This has been excellent. I appreciate all of you coming today. I am glad that we were able to get together. And as you can see, I haven't scheduled another one of these. I was toying with doing it next week. The issue we're having is we're expecting a potential new grandbaby to come on the scenes next week. And I didn't want to schedule something and then not be able to do that, because we'd have to travel to go to where the new grandbaby would be. So I'm just only going to be able to do this one this month, and then we'll spin up a couple of them next month as we get going again. All righty. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it'll be our, what number is that? I can't even remember now. Number 7 grandkid. So they're starting to come, which is nice. This one's a little girl, so we're happy about that. We only have 2 granddaughters. And it kind of feels weird to say granddaughter, to be honest with you. But like, I'm an old guy now, so we love the grandkids. We got ones that come over all the time with Cherie and still come over and play games with her and stuff. And it's just a joy to have them around. So love our grandkids. We only have one of our four. Well, three of our children are married and they have kids, but only one of them lives in Utah or Provo area where they can visit us because we're not very far away. And the other two live in out of state, and so that gets tougher. So we love the ones that are close by, and we try to go see our other ones when we can. So thank you very much. Thank you for the congratulations, and thank you for participating. Please continue to ask questions in the Facebook live area, in the Facebook area, and we'll get those on the list, and we'll talk about them next time when we continue. So thank you very much, and have a good night. Please be safe and be well, and let's see if we can get some rain in Utah. I'm telling you, we need something. So thank you very much, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.